Hey, I'm Susan, and today I'm going to be crafting something brand new to me, and that is a three-tier tray. I've never tried doing it before, so we're going to see how it comes out. And I'm going to also craft some things to go on top of the tray. So let's get started. For my first project, I'm going to use one of these pizza pans. And a few months back, I thrifted all of these light fixtures from Habitat from Humanity, and I'm using one of these two. I had spray painted both of them like this, but I only used one, so I'm using the other one for this project. So I had spray painted my pizza pans, and the other one's going to be used for another project. And I took E6000 and hot glue and glued this down for the bottom onto the pan to hold the next tier. I made sure I centered it. And I had some dishes from old dishes that I didn't have a complete set of, so I added the plate to the second level. And I tried not to mix my glue and E6000, but it was hard to do that. But I pressed down really good on it to get it to hold. And for the next separator, I had these candle jars, and so I glued them to the saucer that I had that matched the second plate, and glued them together using the E6000 and hot glue. And then I glued it to the top. And I tried filling it with glue to kind of level it out so that it wouldn't shake or wouldn't wobble. And that's it put together. And I let it dry overnight. And I forgot to tape, but I added in the little bead garland around the bottom. Since the other two plates had a little bit of a design, I put the garland on the bottom. So the next day I used the Waverly agave chalk paint and painted everything. I thought it was a pretty color. Kind of gave it, like a kind of a boho feel. I usually do stick with blacks and whites and stuff, but I like color, so I thought I would give this a try. If I did it all over, I may have stuck with the white, but I did like this color. And I painted the bottom because I wanted it to be finished. And I used my hair dryer to dry in between coats. I believe it took 2 coats on this. It had very good coverage. And then I used my white and just kind of dry brushed around the edges to bring out the detail of the plates and the beaded part. And then I added jute going around the center to help cover up the glue and where it was attached. And I thought, again, it would give it that kind of natural boho feel to it. And you had to start off gluing fairly regularly, but after that it went pretty quickly. And I just went all the way around. Now, if I'd had it to do all over, I would have turned my pan more, got a flatter look, but I came back through and tried to hide those spots. I think it kind of made it look a little more natural, but I probably would have kept it flat if I had to do it all over again. And I ran out of jute, and I burned off the little hairs from the jute string. This was kind of fun, actually. Since I didn't have any more jute and I wanted to go around just the very bottom, I did have some raffia. So I glued it around the bottom, just up to that first little ledge. And then to get the color closer to the jute, I used antiquing wax, and I'd brush it on and brush it off. And so since the white was so stark on the agave, I just started using antiquing wax all over the whole pan. And I would, like I say, I would brush it on and then wipe it back off with a old rag. Now for my next project, I cut the medium-sized popsicle sticks. And I had from Dollar Tree a pack of the 4x6 canvases, and I love the little shadow boxes, and I wanted to use those on my tray. So I measured out the sizes on the canvases, and then just put them together with hot glue. And I used that same antiquing wax on the wood, on the little sticks, and wiped it off. And it's such a pretty color. I'm really in love with that color. And I went ahead and just did a quick brush over the canvases too, to help them look more finished and not just like a blank canvas. And then I attached them. All together to make my little shadow box. And I glued it from the back to try to give it more support too. These really turned out so cute. I really liked them. They turned out better than I could have imagined. Now I bought these little metal farm animals. It was a cow and a sheep and a pig from Dollar General for $1. And they fit perfectly inside the little boxes. And I cut the wires off at the top. And I just thought it made more of an impact being inside the shadow box, which you'll see in a moment. And I just glued them in with hot glue. Isn't that cute? I absolutely love these. And I've always wanted to make one of the beaded garlands everybody's doing. So I painted part of my beads in the Waverly chalk white. And then I painted some smaller ones in the ink black Waverly. I used two different sizes. I can't remember the sizes of them, but the black was done in the smaller size. And then I used the antiquing wax on the others. I had the same, and I rotated it like the natural and the white and two blacks, which you'll see in a moment. And the little string I had around my light fixture, like the other one that was holding my candle, I saved that jute and used it to make my garland. It was the perfect size. So I just strung them up. Like I said, I did a natural and a white, a natural, a white, and then two blacks. I was hoping it would give it some interest. And then I just knotted them at the end. And I use those popsicle sticks again. I like the little round end on some of those that I've seen, but I didn't have anything to paint, so I just decided to use a coffee cup and make my own circle and glue it together. And I just used the little X-Acto knife to score the circle around, and then I was just going to put it together and make my little circle. I'm not explaining it very good, but you'll see in a moment. And then I used two small popsicle sticks to for the backing. They're thicker, so I had to use a heavier duty case cutter. And I used that same pretty antiquing wax on those. And then when I glued them together, and I have my little circle. And I just kind of trim some of the rough edges off. And I used the white and stenciled on G for my last name. Just very, very little paint, and I wiped it off and just so it wouldn't bleed. And I thought that looked pretty. And I just used a fine tip paintbrush to kind of connect the lines. I'm like so many others, I don't like that little space in between from the stencil. So I just added that in and touched up where it was very light. I thought that turned out really cute. And I just put a hole in the top to thread the jute into. You want to be careful because it splits very easily. I did have to do a little patchwork on that, but it was fine. So now I'm gonna put my jute through the hole and tie on the G, and I used a piece of tape to go through the hole. and then just tied it in a knot in the back. And clipped on the excess. And I glued the back for more support because it had split a little bit. Now making my tassels, I had some suede cord from some jewelry that I used to make, and I had that fluffy thick yarn left over from some stuff I was crocheting, and I decided to make my tassels from that. I thought it would be pretty. So I just wrapped it around a lid I found. I'm sorry it's out of the frame. And I just tied it off with a small piece of the yarn. And clipped the ends off. And then I just took another piece of the one of the cords, the darker color, and tied it around to make my tassel. Now I had to work with the ends because the cord wanted to take the shape of how it had been. And then I just trimmed up the ends and tied it on to my jute cord. And there it is. I worked with it. It did finally loosen up and go straight. Now these little candle jars, I loved the shape of them. So I painted them in the white Waverly chalk paint. It took 2 coats. Now using my Cricut, I cut out faith and hope. These little jars made me think of the Rae Dunn. So it was Rae Dunn inspired, and I used the font, the Skinny from Defont.com. And it was just so tiny. I just thought it was just so cute. And I just used my transfer tape and transferred the words onto the jars. And I love how this ends up turning out. Isn't that cute? For some reason, the transfer tape pulled up a little bit of the paint on this jar. It must have been thicker or something. But I just took a small paintbrush and just touched up where it had pulled away. It was just like 2 little spots. And here's my finished tray. I think it turned out so cute. I just think it went together well. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this, please hit that like button down below and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. So until next time, y'all take care. Bye.